Oh, yeah, good to see you. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Carol Burkett. I'm Deputy Chief of Staff to Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings. I want to welcome everyone to the first meeting of the Orange County Citizen Safety Task Force. It is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Jerry L. Demings, Orange County Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Let me welcome all of you here to the first meeting of the Orange County Citizen Safety Task Force meeting of 2023. As we begin today, I'm going to call on Dr. James Doggett, the pastor of the Patmos Chapel, who is one of our co-chairs with Dr. Jim Coffin, who previously was co-chair as well. We'll formally introduce them in just a few moments. But I'd like for everyone at this time to stand for the invocation, and following the invocation by Dr. Doggett, we're going to ask Dr. Coffin if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And with that, welcome at this time.
Let's pray. We thank you, our Father, for the privilege and opportunity to assemble in this place today to discuss a most important topic. We do ask that you would be with us, granting to us the wisdom you promised to in the book of James. We do ask that you would give to us clarity of thought, clarity of speech, that you would awaken within us the kind of desire to bless this community that will lead us to a good end. We do ask that you would please be present in this room, and that the things that we do today would be pleasing in your sight is our desire. We do ask that as a result of our labors, this community will be made more safe. In the name of Jesus, we ask it. Amen.
I would invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have the flag here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you to our co-chairs. At this point, as we start our meeting, I'm going to begin with some opening comments to kind of share with you and the general public the purpose of these meetings going forward. You all may recall that we previously constituted a Citizen Safety Task Force that made recommendations. But today we are gathering once again here within Orange County to address some significant issues regarding violence and even the perception of violent crime within our community. I want to express my gratitude to all of you who have volunteered to participate in this process. Before I introduce our co-chairs for the welcome remarks, I'd like to take this opportunity to also share with you some additional experiences. As you know, we experienced a horrific shooting in our community last month. 3 lives, sadly, were taken on February the 22nd, to include one child who was just 9 years old. Our community is certainly heartbroken by this senseless act of violence. I dare say that we see similar acts that have occurred around the nation. And this is a complex problem with no single solution. The government and law enforcement cannot solve it alone. It takes each of us in the room today and the entire community to make the changes our children, families, and residents deserve. Many of the members who worked on the task force are joining us once again because they were here before. They volunteered their time. However, we do have several new members, and we look forward to working with all of you as we address this long-standing issue in our community. The task force goal is to identify strategies and solutions to reduce and prevent gun violence and violent crime within our community. Later today, you will hear from county staff on the progress that we've made to date on the implementation of the prior recommendations. Still, as you know, pervasive gun violence is a complex challenge with many causes. The task force will meet over the next several months to review the recommendations and see where modifications are needed. My role is to convene and facilitate this conversation as this citizen-led body undergoes the review process. As we did last time, we are holding the full task force meetings at our various Orange County Recreation Center Magic Gyms, which are located throughout the county. These facilities serve as meeting places as well as places for our youth to be involved in sports and engage in other positive activities. In addition, I believe the gyms provide a place of synergy between the government and the community. Let me also say this is not about one community. This is a countywide issue, and gun violence and violent crime can affect anyone at any time. Over the next month, we will be holding 2 additional community forums, one on the east side of Orange County and one on the west side of Orange County, so we can hear from our residents on both sides of town. We will also relaunch the Community Crime Survey the first week of April to gain insight and feedback from our residents on gun violence and violent crime, as well as to formulate solutions and strategies going forward. Each of you has a certain experience and expertise that you bring to the table. One of the things that I said as we were concluding our meetings in the past, I cautioned that while we were readily accepting the recommendations, I knew that at some point we would be back having a conversation again. Here we are. Today starts the beginning of those conversations and the dialogue. I want you to know that the Board of County Commission takes very seriously our role and responsibilities to making certain that we work with our community partners to ensure that our community is as safe as it possibly can be. We will continue to use your taxpayer dollars to assist our community in the solutions and the response to the various issues. But we will also look to our faith community, hence the reason why we have 2 individuals from our faith community who will co-lead these efforts going forward. We will look to our private sector to assist us in funding gaps. We will look to our nonprofit organizations and other non-governmental organizations to assist us in this process going forward. And with that, let me introduce the first co-chair. Pastor Jim Coffin was co-chair this last time, along with former County Commissioner Rod Love. He has agreed to return, and if you will, we will give him a few moments to introduce himself, and he will be followed again by Dr. Doggett, the senior pastor of the Patmos Chapel, Seventh-day Adventist Church here within our community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Coffin at this time.
Thank you very much, Mayor Demings. It's a pleasure to be here once again and to see many faces that I recognize because you served on the initial task force. And one of the things that makes it such an honor and a privilege to participate in an event like this is that in this event, I know that there's unanimity of opinion about the need to do something. We may not all see it exactly the same way as how we can most effectively resolve the problem that we face, but we all recognize that the problem must be faced, and if we don't face it, it's going to continue to erode our society. And so I'd like to thank the mayor for allowing me this privilege once again, and I'd like to thank you in anticipation for the kind of work that I know you will do because of what you did last time. And this is not a redo so much as a review. And even if things were sailing along wonderfully, it's always important to reconsider what has been done, to see if there's anything else that needs to be done, to see if there's any fine-tuning that could make it better. And that's why we're here today, is to reconsider the good things that have been suggested and implemented already, but to see if there is even more that we can do because it is an urgent problem. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to add to that, Jim Coffin, that in fact, I do thank the mayor as well for the opportunity to participate on this task force and to have a leadership role. It is an important issue that we're dealing with. We're clear on that. I think our mayor has demonstrated great wisdom in reconvening this group. I'm new to it, but many of you have sat in these seats before to discuss the important issue of safety in Orange County. Not only does the mayor care, but you obviously care. Your presence here says that, because I know you're very busy people, very influential people. You are changers of society. You are game changers, period. Intelligent. I've been looking forward to just being in your midst. I can promise you that Pastor Coffin and I have a commitment to make sure that we don't waste any of your time in the meetings where we're chairing. In fact, we do intend to move the agenda along swiftly and smoothly so that discussions can take place, reports can be given, and we can get to a conclusion in a reasonable length of time. At the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that the work product that we give is going to be one that makes Orange County the safest county, not just in Florida, but in America. And I just want to say once again, thank you to the mayor for the wisdom God's blessed you with.
We've introduced ourselves, but we would like to have all of the members of the task force introduce themselves. And this is just a brief introduction, who you are, what organization you represent. Think in terms of about 15 seconds, so that won't allow you to name all your children or your pets. But you can at least, cover the most important aspects. I'd like to have us go counterclockwise, and then when we come to those who don't have the name tags in front of them because they're actually employees of the county, I'd like to have the employees of the county introduce themselves as well, because you're going to be working very closely together, and it's important that we all know who all of them are as well. So let's start over here on my right and just continue one after the other with no further comment from me. Okay. Try again. 15 seconds is up. No. Just joking.
Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for asking me to come down here. I'm representing, my name's Arnie Amaros, starting with the A's, I guess. I'm representing Orange County Representative from District 4, Cordero, and I'm retired from the NYPD. I am now the Vice President for the Fraternal Order of Police, and just glad to help out and contribute anything I can to the task force. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor, for inviting us to this task force. I'm Barb Bergen, retired police officer with Orlando PD, currently the Executive Director of Central Florida Crime Line, the anonymous tip line for Central Florida.
I'm Johnny Brinson, President of Deborah Clayton's Bridging the Gap. Thank you for having me.
Charles Brown, Vice President of Bridges International, Drug and Alcohol and Mental Health Programs.
Hello, my name is Chloe Johnson Bronson. I'm the Orange County Representative for District 1. I am an advocate for East Winter Garden, trying to make our neighborhood a safe and better area for our children.
Greetings. I'm Julianne Cross. I'm representing Orange County Public Schools. I am the Senior Administrator for the Social Services team with the district.
Thank you. My name is Linda Coffin. I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action, which is a national organization that works hard to try to reduce gun violence.
I'm Danny Dawson. I'm a retired circuit judge from the Ninth Circuit, Orange and Osceola County. Spent virtually my whole career on both the criminal but mostly juvenile bench.
My name is Eric DeBose. I'm a retired Orange County Sheriff's Office deputy and also newly elected chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee of the NAACP Orange County branch.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Early, representing the City of Orlando. I'm the city's Director of Families, Parks, and Recreation and Children and Education, and my department runs all of the children and youth programs for the City of Orlando.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandra Fatmi Hall, and I'm representing the Pine Hills Community Council. We're the advocacy group for the 81,000 plus residents of Pine Hills.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adam Hartnett. I serve as the regional coordinator for the Circles initiative in Central Florida. I work for a nonprofit organization called Poverty Solutions Group.
So I think I want to, can you hear me? Okay. No. Who wanted me to try it. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Candace Jones, pediatrician with Orange Blossom Family Health.
Hi, I'm Catherine Jones. I'm from the Orange County Representative District 5, a credible messenger in training. And as one of the youngest women to ever go to prison for homicide, I stand committed and dedicated now to preventing our children from making the same mistake I did.
Hi, my name is Pastor Sabrina Jones. I'm representing District 2. Over in South Apopka, where children's lives matter. And I'm a big part of their lives over there. I get out in the trenches and I do what I can do for them.
Good afternoon. My name is Subhash Katil. I'm the Florida State Director for Alliance for Safety and Justice. We represent over 11,000 crime victims across the state of Florida that are working for new safety solutions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Lanning. I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Orange County. I'm proud to represent our 700 members located throughout the county. We defend democracy and empower voters.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Lee. Hello. Ricky Lee with Jacobs Engineering and also with the Asian American community here in Central Florida.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marquise McKenzie. I'm representing Orange County Commissioner, Representative District 6.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jerome Miller, City of Apopka Police Department. I'm sitting here and representing Chief Michael McKinley.
Good afternoon, Sheriff John Amina, Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon, Miles Moraine, representing Let Your Voice Be Heard out of Orange County.
Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Ash. I'm a lecturer at Oxford University, and I worked in corrections for years.
Good afternoon. I'm Chief Eric Smith of the Orlando Police Department.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Vose. I'm a retired Chief Assistant State Attorney for 32 years in this circuit, however, retired now.
Good afternoon. I am Keisha Mofer. I am sitting in on behalf of the State Attorney Monique Worrell for the 9th Judicial Circuit.
Good afternoon. I'm David Berman. I'm an Assistant County Attorney at the Orange County Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon. Carla Bell Johnson, Deputy County Administrator with Orange County.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am LaVon Williams. I'm the Deputy Director for Community and Family Services that provides social services for children and families throughout Orange County.
Good afternoon. I am Tracy Salem. I'm the other Deputy Director of Community and Family Services and the liaison for the Intervention Subcommittee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mary Davis, Senior Monitoring and Evaluation Coordinator with the Citizens Commission for Children.
Good afternoon. I'm Angela Chastain. I'm the Division Manager with Orange County Citizens Commission for Children, and I'm supporting the Prevention Subcommittee.
Good afternoon. I am Anthony Watts. I am a Deputy Chief with Orange County Corrections Department, and I'm honored to serve as the County Liaison for the Enforcement Subcommittee.
Good afternoon. Juanita Beeson, Division Manager, Inmate Administrative Services at Orange County Correction, and I serve as a liaison for the Prosecution Subcommittee.
Hello again. Carol Burkett, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Demings, and I have the pleasure of serving as the staff lead to the task force. Thank you, Pastor Coffin.
Thank you to everyone for sharing who you are and who you represent. We have numerous people here today. Do we have anyone who is online, who is watching online? If so, we'd like to have them introduce themselves. Is there anyone?
Pastor, Dr. Jonathan Cox with UCF was going to try to join us, so he is not on at this time, but will try to join us.
Okay. We would mention that it is possible to log into meetings online. However, we would remind you that the quorum is established by the number of people who are physically present. So we would urge you to make every effort possible to make sure that you or your designee, in the case of law enforcement officials and so on who aren't always able to be here, we would ask that you be physically present as often as possible so that we can make our actions count as opposed to just being advisory. So we thank all of you again for your willingness to serve on this committee, this task force, and we hope to be a real benefit to the community because of what we do.
The next item on the agenda is, in fact, public comment. I'd like to ask the Orange County staff if, in fact, we do have some persons who have filled out the cards you have. If we can get them towards the microphones at this time. As you come forward to make your comments, we're going to ask you to please keep those comments somewhere in the area of 3 minutes. When you approach the microphone, speak directly into that microphone, and if you would, give us your name and your address for the record first, and then go ahead and address the task force. I'd like to recognize Carol Burkett, the Deputy Chief for the Mayor of Orange County. Yes, sir. Mayor Demings' office. I recognize you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Doggett. And we have 2 public comments today. I would like to ask Cindy Washington to come to the podium if she is here. Cindy Washington. Oh, there's. Hello, Cindy. We've got the podium right here for you. And if you wouldn't mind, please stating your name and your address for the record.
My name is Cindy Washington, and my address is 3516 Meadow Lake Lane here in Orlando, Florida. And my suggestion today, to avoid a lot of the crime that's being committed, I'm asking our leaders to be more committed against identity theft and fraud. Having come here 2 years ago, under OHA, my identities were stolen repetitively. No matter what I did, no matter who I spoke with, no matter whether I went to Orange County law enforcement or I wrote an email to Kissimmee, it was still repeated. So this creates animosity and criminal acts when it's unnecessary. even in the building that I live in, I'm portrayed as being anybody but myself. I ride public bus here in this community. I pay my taxes. I'm working at a job. This individual was able to infiltrate my employer and continue with the identity theft. Identity theft and fraud is one of the major concerns that I think that plagues our community. We have a beautiful community. It's a beautiful city. And I have not ever been able to enjoy it because I'm constantly on the defense. My days are spent on the defense. I mean, you can't play bait and switch. Like switch me for that one and that one for that one. And then that one does this and then you come and attack me. I'm innocent. So I think that identity theft and fraud is one of the major projects that I would like to see our police department especially. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want people attacking my family members who work close connection and close proximity in that particular area, because most of the time it's covert, a tit for a tat, and it continues, and it needs to stop.
Thank you for your comment. Next, we have Hope Bellamy. Hope? Hello, sir. If you would just approach the podium and please give your name and address for the record.
All right. First thing I say, welcome everybody here today, panel and also the community. I'm low under the weather, but bear with me. Hope Bellamy, 1704 Dare Street, Ocoee, Florida. I'm here to address most of the panel members know who I am, know what I stand for. For the panel members who don't know who I am, turn around so you guys can see me. My stance on community and violence is a little bit different. Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me? I'm a little hoarse, but I'm going to make sure y'all can hear me. My stance on crime. Oh, yeah, the mic? Okay.
We want to make sure that Orange TV picks it up so for the people viewing can hear
Okay,
you.
got you. So, because the mic is bad.
I know.
All
We're
right.
getting some feedback.
So, my stance on crime is a little bit different from most of the individuals here. I'm speaking from coming on the criminal side after doing 12 years in the penitentiary. So I've been on the other side of the gate. And a lot of times when you're in the prison system, individuals don't understand how it's like to be in prison. In prison, we have food, chess, checkers, games. There's no education going on. There's no trades going on. So when you return back to society, you're coming back to society to fend. You need food, you need clothing, and you need shelter. The criminal mindset is going to go back to what they know how to do to fend for crime, to fend for themselves. So these task force and the panelists is good. We're talking about the after effect. You cannot begin to fight a criminal behavior mind without attacking the issues they're coming home to. So we like to point out more jail time. Okay, they go to jail, they come home. The crime's going to commit it again. So we need to invite people to the task force, Mayor, that's in the prison system from Tallahassee to figure out what we can do inside the prison to prevent them from doing the acts when they come home.
Thank you, Mr. Bellamy, for your comments. And Dr. Doggett, that is the only two that we have for today. Thank you.
Very good. We thank you so much for coming. Those of you who are from the community, not part of the task force, your voice is heard. We took note of everything that you said. It is written down, and it will be considered moving forward. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce another topic here, and that is a civility pledge that we're going to present. And let me just say that we want people here who are opinionated, because if you're not opinionated, you're not going to have much to say. And we want people who are passionate, because we want you to feel intensely what you feel, but we want you to express it and to interact with civility. And there may be times where we'll disagree, and there may be times when we'll disagree strongly, but we can do it with civility and without name-calling, etc. So, I'm going to read a civility pledge that we asked the initial task force to commit to, and we're going to ask you to do the same. As a member of the Orange County Citizen Safety Task Force, I believe our community, our nation, our world are stronger and safer when we treat each other with dignity and respect. I believe that my voice is important, and I believe that listening to the voices of others is a prerequisite for healthy, vibrant, productive human interactions. I believe that insulting, attacking, or demonizing people with whom I disagree is unproductive and unacceptable. I pledge to recognize my responsibility and do my part in supporting a free, fair, respectful, and collegial democratic process. I commit to educating myself and others about the issues. I commit to express myself responsibly, to seek to learn the different perspectives, and to challenge hurtful, disrespectful, demeaning behavior when I'm in a position to do so. And this was taken from a UCC group who tried to govern their processes in this way, and we thought that it would be appropriate here as well. And so I would ask that we all, by the showing of a hand, commit ourselves to this, and it's really just remembering what our mothers taught us to do when we were young, but doing it in the public forum. So all who are willing to commit to that civility pledge, I ask you to raise your hands. Thank you very much, and we appreciate your being here. And again, this is not to stifle opinion, it's not to stifle passion. It's to simply make sure that we express that opinion with passion in the right way. Okay, I'd like to move on, and at this time, we would like to invite the Assistant County Attorney, David Berman, to come and speak to us about the sunshine laws and the regulations that apply to us as members of this task force. And we would ask that you pay close attention to this, because this isn't something that always comes natural to us. We tend to want to talk to people who are interested in the same things that we are, wherever we are, and there are some limitations on our conversation that we have to pay attention to. And I would ask that you hold your questions for Attorney Berman and also other presenters. Hold your questions until we come to the end. You can make a note of it, but we want to make sure that we have time to cover all the presentations and the meeting doesn't drag out too long. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. As you said, I'm David Berman, an Assistant County Attorney at the County Attorney's Office. Obviously, I want to thank you all for your time and dedication to this very important task force. Many of you may be very familiar with what I'm going to cover. It's the sunshine and public record laws in Florida, but we certainly want everyone to be aware of these, so to try to keep you all out of trouble. So the Sunshine Law is intended to provide a right of access to governmental proceedings at the state and local level. This applies to both elected and appointed boards such as yourselves. Generally, all meetings at which official acts are taken or public business is transacted or discussed are public meetings, and these must be open and noticed to the public. Now, a sunshine meeting is where two or more members of a single board or committee meet and discuss matters that may foreseeably come before that board. These meetings can be formal or informal. That's very important to understand. Informal meetings outside of these walls can also be covered by the Sunshine Law requirements. These meetings include advisory board meetings, work group meetings. It also includes telephone calls and text messages, anywhere where your opinions are shared with other members on the board. Social media communications, and as a note, you may receive emails from time to time from staff members that get directed to all of the task force members. I would recommend not replying all, because that will generate that communication that goes amongst all task members. Now, Sunshine Law meetings are subject to three basic requirements. It must be noticed to the public, must be open to public, and the minutes must be recorded. The meeting notice is not defined by statute, but it is governed under a reasonableness level. Now, the reasonableness must be given in a manner so that the media and general public may attend the meeting. This is dependent upon the circumstances and the type of meeting that's going to be conducted. Generally, the county requires at least 2 business days notice. Your meetings will probably be covered most often by your county staff. If you have any questions, you can certainly follow up with them. Now, meetings must be open to the public. This means that the location must be easily accessible to the public. It must be of adequate size to accommodate the number of members and the number of public that are anticipated to attend. There may not be any discrimination against or restriction against access to the public. And generally, again, the county requires meetings to take place at county buildings. The minutes, these must be promptly recorded in writing. They have to be available and open to the public for inspection and copying. These consist of brief notes. It's not necessarily a verbatim transcription of the events that took place at the meeting, just brief notes. And so you are aware, audio recording is permitted, but it is not required. Obviously, today we have this also through video on Orange TV. Now, there are violations that can occur under Sunshine Law. Just want to make sure that you're aware of these. These can be enforced by the state attorney. Any violation of Sunshine Law can result in a fine of up to $500. If it is a knowing violation, you intentionally commit this violation, it can be considered a second-degree misdemeanor, again resulting in a fine, removal of the committee, and imprisonment of up to 60 days. Now, as far as public records, these are very similar in concept to the Sunshine Law, but they apply to records. This is intended to provide a right of access to government records, and generally, every person has the right to inspect or copy any public record made or received in connection with the transaction of official business of any public body. Now, there are certain exemptions provided by statute. Something to keep in mind is that there is no reason required for someone to make a public record request. Also, there's no residency requirement. It doesn't have to be an Orange County resident making a request for a public record. And with regard to the exemptions, again, these are by statute only. These generally apply to things such as Social Security numbers, bank account numbers. There is no county or judicial created exemptions. They're strictly by statute. Now, public records do apply to all materials prepared or created to perpetuate, communicate, or formalize knowledge related to official agency business. This includes all documents or other materials, regardless of the physical form, characteristics, or means of transmission. That means this also applies to emails or any other communication, text messages. Now, this also includes draft documents. So even if something that is prepared by the task force is in draft form, that also would be subject to the public records requirements. This also includes anything that you maintain on your personal devices. So if you maintain these records on your phones or your personal computers, those also could be subject to public record requests. Again, similar to the Sunshine Law, there are violations for public record acts. This, again, can result in a fine of up to $500. In this case, a knowing violation is considered a first-degree misdemeanor, removal from the committee, and imprisonment up to a year. And that concludes my presentation on Sunshine Law and public records.
All right, we thank you. We thank you so much. It's important information that we absolutely need to know. And just so I can be certain and sure, with the shaking of the head, if someone can tell us when we see each other in the streets, we can still speak to each other, correct?
Yes. You just cannot talk about work of the task force.
Yeah, we just don't talk about the work that we're dealing with now. There's this filling out process, I guess, we're going through right now. Everybody looks pretty tense, but we're going to loosen up over time and make sure that there are opportunities for everybody to really get off of their chest what they need to say, the thoughts they have. We're bringing our heads and our hearts to this. As we get going, however, we do need to make sure that we have a real grip on the scope of the problem. And so we're happy to have with us the Sheriff of Orange County, John Mina, the Honorable John Mina, who is going to come and present to us exactly what's really going on right now, some updates, some statistics, so that we're clear. We don't just have anecdotal evidence, but we have, in fact, a clear picture of what's going on.
Thank you, and good afternoon again to all of you. And again, I'm going to show you a kind of a brief overview of what's happening in Orange County, and this is going to go back several years, so you get a full grasp on everything. So, Part 1 crimes are, crimes that most crimes that we respond to, but includes your more serious offenses: homicide, sexual battery, robbery, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, auto burglary, commercial burglary, and residential burglaries. As you can see, Part 1 crimes are down over the past 5 years, and if you see the dip there in 2020 and 2021, mostly it relates to COVID, right? Less people out, less people moving around, less victims. So we're still seeing a 23% reduction as compared to 2018 in Part 1 serious crimes. There's been much discussion about Pine Hills, and so I wanted to include that. Again, we're seeing reductions in Part 1 crimes in Pine Hills by 30%, going back to 2018. And I also wanted to do this. If you go back to 2013, you see where Pine Hills was as far as crime. Crime was way up. And if you compare it to 2022, that's a 51% decrease. And you ask, why such a sharp decrease? Even before I became sheriff, we started pouring resources into the Pine Hills area with COPS grant funding. So there are extra deputies in our Pine Hills area, and that's why you see those huge decreases in numbers. Also wanted to show Holden Heights, another one of our challenging areas where we see a lot of violent crime, but crime has decreased in Holden Heights, the Part 1 crime, by 17%. Did want to cover property crime. Property crime, again, going back from 2018, is down as well. And so here are violent crime numbers. This is countywide: homicide, robbery, persons, and sex crimes down as well. Here's a snapshot of the arrests we're making, right? So if you have less Part 1 crimes being committed, you're going to naturally have less arrests, but you rest assured that is still a lot of arrests, over 2,200 in 2022 for Part 1 crimes. And that includes people that were filed on, people who were booked in jails, people who were given notice to appear, and civil citations. So something that we've been working on is reducing the number of juvenile arrests, and I'm talking about for low-level offenses. So again, we had a huge dip during the COVID years. Less people, less juveniles going to school. But if you go back to 2016, 2015, those numbers were as high as 4,700 juvenile arrests. So we've been able to decrease that, and again, the decreases come in steering juveniles away from the criminal justice system, giving more juvenile civil citations, and just a matter of factly arresting less juveniles for low-level offenses, either battery, pushing and shoving, misdemeanor thefts. A lot of these incidents are handled by school staff and by parents. Thus, we're keeping handcuffs off kids and really not getting them into the juvenile criminal justice system unless needed. So I can assure you that those arrests that are being made are for serious felony offenses. So this is a heat map. If you concentrate there on the upper left-hand corner of Orange County, that's Pine Hills and Apopka area, and the one at the more towards the bottom of the screen, that's our Holden Heights area. So those are the two areas that we see the most shots fired in Orange County, and so we direct a lot of resources because of those shots being fired in Orange County. And that could be just a shots fired call, that could be an actual victim, that could be someone who's shot at. So here's the countywide homicide rate. So what you have is in blue is the yearly total. And I've taken this all the way back 10 years. It's pretty consistent with the amount of homicides. We do see the firearm-related homicides obviously cover most of our homicides. That's the gray shaded area. And if you see that black line on top of the graph, that is our clearance rate. Up to 75% clearance rate. The national average for clearance of homicides is about 60%. This year in 2023, with our homicides, we're at 94% clearance rate. Another snapshot of the homicides in Orange County, all of Orange County for 2022 last year. As you can see, most of the homicides occur on the west side of Orange County. This is something that we like to concentrate on. Again, you saw the crime numbers. There's only a small percentage of people who are committing these crimes in our community. We do focus a lot on these type of arrests, gun charges, convicted felons who have already been released and back out there committing crimes again. And one of those crimes that we see are possession of firearm by convicted felon. And you see the gray shaded area, that's juveniles who have also been convicted of a felony and then rearrested for possession of firearm by convicted felon. Here are the amount of guns that we take off the street. This could be an arrest. This could be as a result of a search warrant. Pretty consistent over the past 5 years, and we are on track to take that many guns off the street or more for 2023. So as you see, the calls for service, a little bit dip there in the COVID years, and then 2022, a million calls for service that we respond to. So here is something that's it's concerning to us. Talking about aggravated assault and shots fired, aggravated battery where a victim is shot. You see the increases from 2018 to 2022. So what does that tell us? We are seeing more gun violence in our community, even though overall crime is down. So I wanted to bring up this slide. If you remember at our last session of this task force, this photo that I showed was the subject of much discussion. I've blurred out everyone's faces, but I want to talk about these individuals. Since last time, all these individuals have been arrested multiple times. One is serving 20 years in prison. He was just sentenced because of a gang operation that we did here in Orange County, which was handled by the statewide prosecutor. And one of these individuals, unfortunately, is deceased. And so I say that to say that that's why that I believe that prosecution of these individuals who are committing the crimes in our community with guns need to be held accountable, and it could save their own life, right? Because we would much rather have them go to prison, go to jail, get rehabilitated, than end up deceased by gun violence in our streets. So talking about gang activity, so we documented about 55 gangs operating in Orange County, 861 gang members, and honestly, we have 220,000 students in our school. We have a population of over 1.2 million. It's a very, very small percentage of people that are involved in criminal gang activity in our community. So we do our best to arrest them when we can. So you see over the years, the average between 400 and 500 gang arrests. Most of those are adults, 18 to 25-year-olds. So those are the folks that we are targeting. So we have had some issues with our juvenile criminal justice system. So I want to talk about this person. I'm not naming them, right? So this person in October 22 shot someone, was charged with second-degree murder, and was arrested on November 6, 2022. And look at all those charges: auto burglary, criminal mischief, armed robbery, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, battery, grand theft auto, shooting into a dwelling, possession of weapon by a delinquent, violation of home confinement, VOP. So the person was arrested. 42 days later, this juvenile was released on electronic monitoring. 35 days later, that person cut the electronic monitoring off and absconded. 7 days later, they were rearrested, spent 45 days in the juvenile detention center, and was released. 3 days later, again absconded, and this person has still absconded. So you see law enforcement's frustration. Here's a person that was arrested for second-degree murder and is put on electronic monitoring and easily cuts that electronic monitoring device off and is in our community, and we are still looking for this person right now. So my point of contact for this committee is Captain Ashley Strange. If you could raise your hand. Oh, there she is. And that's her contact information. And that concludes my presentation. I know we're going to take questions at the end, not now. Is that correct?
Thank you, Sheriff.
We thank you. We thank you and your staff for the work that you do. We are honored to have on this task force the police chief of Orlando, Chief Eric Smith. And we're going to ask him to come to the microphone right now, and we recognize you and thank you for the work that you do for the city of Orlando. Have your way right now.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you for having me here today. So at the Orlando Police Department, we have over 800 officers and 200 professional staff that are working hard every day to reduce crime in the city. So when I took first office, I outlined my top priorities as the chief of police. It's to reduce violent crime and build our neighborhood relations. Through reorganization, collaboration between units, and the dedication of all of our members of this agency, we are working together to accomplish our mission. So in the first 7 months of me being chief, we have already seen a 9% decrease in violent crime. This is a huge number for us. One of the reasons this has happened is one of our goals in reducing violent crime is stopping shootings. As you can see here, our efforts to remove crime guns off the streets have been successful. We've seen almost a 40% increase in the number of guns that were taken off the streets. Not only patrol units, but also our TAC and Special Enforcement Division have really focused on removing crime guns and making our streets safer. Their work has led to nearly 700 crime gun seizures in the last 7 months. Along with this, our shootings have dropped. We've seen a 21% decrease in the number of shootings. So like Sheriff Mina said, the average homicide clearance rate is about 60%. Our clearance rate when I first took over as chief was 37%. As of today, our clearance rate is up to 83%. Since January 1st, we've had 6 homicides, 5 of which have been cleared. One of the reasons we're having positive results is one thing I did as chief was bring back our patrol tactical units. Their mission is to directly impact violent crimes. These units have proven in the past to help in the reduction of crime. As you can see today, they have been effective. They have made over 900 felony arrests, and they have seized almost 300 crime guns. Our Special Enforcement Division includes our Drug Enforcement Squads, Overdose Unit, Gang Unit, and Fugitive Investigation Unit. I changed all their missions and focused them exclusively on violent offenders. These units are focusing their efforts on a small percentage of people committing violent crime in our city. The Gang Unit was given the task to target and track violent gangs. The Fugitive Investigation Unit has made over 123 felony arrests. The Special Enforcement Division has made over 400 felony arrests. They have recovered 114 crime guns. They've also seized over 21 kilos of fentanyl. Another change I made to get more eyes out in our community is change the number of officers on our patrol squads. We went from 10 officers to 12 officers. This increases the number of officers in our neighborhoods. While enforcement is a good thing, we also need community outreach. So I made it my mission to get out in the community and attend meetings to hear our residents' concerns. One of our priorities is to attend meetings in the neighborhoods regardless of the size. And since I've been chief, I've attended over 120 meetings. The one thing I also committed to the community was that in every one of our 6 districts, we would have quarterly meetings hosted by the police department. We just started our 2nd round of meetings. Neighborhood Watch is a priority, and we're always working to build the number of groups and members in attendance because we can't be everywhere to support our community. So at the Orlando Police Department, it's important for me as chief to be involved in the day-to-day operations of our department. One of the changes I made is that every lieutenant, every rank from lieutenant up to chief, has to ride 1 midnight shift and 1 day shift a month. This gets us out working with our officers, and they can see that we're a team trying to make our community safer. So the big focus of the Orlando Police Department, yes, is to be proactive and to fight crime, but we know we can't do it without community support. So that's why the community has something to say, we need to hear it. And that's one of the big things we're doing is by having our community meetings and our proactive crime fighting, we're working together to make a positive difference in our community. Thank you.
We thank you for that report. And so that everybody is aware, at the end or near the end, we will have an opportunity for the task force to make comments and ask questions. So if you have questions for any of those who are making presentations, please, by all means, write those questions down so that you will remember them. And at the end of our meeting, near the end anyway, we'll have those questions addressed by those who have made presentations.
At this time, we'll turn our attention to Carol Burkett, who is going to coordinate a progress report from what we did last time when the task force met. And she will not be the sole speaker, but she will call on the various subcommittee liaisons, and they will report as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Pastor Coffin and Dr. Doggett. And thank you, task force members. I do have the pleasure of kicking off this progress update for the Orange County Citizen Safety Task Force. I'm going to be followed by Angela Chastain. She was introduced, manager of our Citizens Commission for Children. She was the staff lead for prevention. She will give you those updates. She'll be followed by Dr. Tracy Salem, deputy director for Community and Family Services, who will go over intervention. And then she will be followed by Deputy Chief Watts, Orange County Corrections. He was our enforcement staff lead. And then that will conclude with Ms. Juanita Beeson, who is at our Corrections Department and Inmate Administrative Services Manager. And she was also the prosecution staff lead. And I'll come back with a few brief remarks as we conclude our presentation. And I also wanted to mention 2 other people that are key that you already heard from. LaVon Williams also works very closely with us on the task force. She's Deputy Director as well of Community and Family Services. And then I have the pleasure of working very closely with Carla Bell Johnson, our Deputy County Administrator, as we get to work with this dynamic team to implement the recommendations. So as you heard the mayor say in the very beginning, our goal and the task force goal is to identify solutions and strategies to reduce and prevent gun violence and violent crime in the community. And this group, and certainly those who were here before, did that work in 120 days and met over 52 times to accomplish that goal. So today, just a very brief overview from me of the task force, then we'll get right to those subcommittee updates and some next steps. As the mayor mentioned, we had a very diverse group that he impaneled in November of 2020, and that the reason for that is because of a series of shootings. There were 7 shootings. All of those were under the age of 17, and 2 were fatalities. As a result of that, the mayor impaneled this group in November of 2020. They met for 120 days, and during the course of that deliberation and discussion, the mayor and the Board of County Commission approved $2 million to support the implementation of the recommendations. The task force concluded its work in March of 2021 and developed those 20 recommendations that were accepted by this group. There's also about 50 short-term actions and 20 long-term actions with those recommendations. The Board of County Commission accepted those recommendations in April of 2021, and then you have today, and we produced this in May of 2021, the task force report that you have with you. This is also available online. This is the cross-departmental team. You've heard, as everyone in the italicized, that has worked closely with the task force, but it takes a whole lot more people to do that, and you can see all the names up there from our various departments and divisions that have given their support in addition to their other duties, because this is an important issue for all of us in this community and in the county. So as we look at the 4 pillars, this is how the mayor started the task force, that we would be able to conduct our work focusing on prevention. And it was the prevention subcommittee that came up with their mission of wanting to work with youth, ages 13 to 25 in zip codes where the incident of violent crime was the highest. They were looking at promise youth and developed 7 prevention initiatives and recommendations. Intervention focused on promoting interagency collaboration and coordination among our service providers. Enforcement. Their focus was to review data and evidence-based enforcement strategies to reduce gun violence. Community policing strategies were a big part of that as well. And then prosecution, looking at enhancement of prosecution and gun violence and violent crimes. I'm going to now turn it over to Ms. Chastain, who will cover our prevention recommendations progress.
Thank you, Carol, and good afternoon again. The Prevention Subcommittee explored the effects of trauma on children and youth and provided several recommendations regarding trauma-informed care and adverse childhood experiences. The Task Force Committee also recommended that training and continuing education are important. So in partnership with the Peace and Justice Institute, all 13 neighborhood center for families throughout Orange County completed trainings that included basic trauma-informed practices and youth development professionals. And they also attended trainings for resilience training. In addition, Orange County Citizens Commission for Children partnered with the Peace and Justice Institute and Orlando Health, whereby over 300 CCC staff and provider agencies, including some of their advisory board members as well, were trained in positive and adverse childhood experiences. Over 90% of the program participants responded that they agree or strongly agree that the knowledge and skills learned in the workshops will help them in their respective jobs. We are currently expanding this collaboration to reach parents, guardians, and caretakers to inform how their very own ACEs can impact the development of those who they care for and how ACEs scores impact youth. The task force also recommended investing in an effective system of behavioral and mental health trauma-informed services. Through a partnership with Orange County's Mental Health and Homelessness Division, over 100 clinicians and clinical supervisors have been trained in therapeutic practices that include cognitive behavioral therapy, applied behavior analysis, as well as family functional therapy. And in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida and Orange County's faith-based community, and under the leadership of Bishops Cabarrus and Presley, the Save Our Students summer program was launched. The goal of the program is to offer safe, structured weekend activities for youth throughout Orange County. We hosted 29 events throughout Orange County that were held in Apopka, Carver Shores, Pine Hills, Winter Garden, Bithlo, Goldenrod, and the Paramore communities. These weekend activities were hosted during the 2022 summer with over 1,400 participants. And we'd like to show our gratitude to Orange County Sheriff's Office for bringing their gaming trucks, which was the hook to much of the increased activity that we had at the summer programs. This year, the entities are prepared to host over 40 weekend activities. While many of the activities will be offered at Boys and Girls Club sites, the Boys and Girls Club has also partnered and is working through Orange County Citizens Commission for Children and Orange County's Parks Rec Division to provide some activities at those sites. The marketing campaign for the summer 2023 programs will be taking place soon. They're slated to begin in April. And during the spring of 2022, the Orange County Citizens Review Panel advertised over $5.4 million in funding and announced a request for proposal that included youth violence prevention as a new focus area. For those who aren't aware, the Citizens Review Panel is the funding arm of Orange County Citizens Commission for Children. And the Citizens Review Panel solicits proposals for nonprofit organizations in Orange County to fund programs and services on behalf of Orange County's children and their families. The goal of the Youth Violence Program is to provide comprehensive community-based prevention strategies to prevent and reduce the incidence of violent crime. The request for proposal required that a sub-award model be included that included a multidisciplinary engagements that included mentoring, life skills, arts, the traditional and the non-traditional sense of arts, case management, and mental and behavior health to work with high-risk children and youth and young adults ages 13 to 25. And services for this program are slated to begin in this April. In addition, we are continuing to fund life skills and mentoring programs. 4 additional new life skills trainings were added, as well as 4 additional mentoring programs were added to the slate of existing programs. The task force also provided the recommendation to invest in systems of technical support and capacity building to enhance the nonprofit infrastructure of small on-the-ground organizations. Contracts with the University of Central Florida, as well as Edith Bush Foundations, have been continued and they have been expanded. The University of Central Florida provides 8-week summer seminar for nonprofits not currently funded through the county, and priority is provided to small grassroots organizations. Topics include board development, financial accountability and management, grant writing, and other staples that are needed to strengthen nonprofit organizations. The number of program participants have been increased from 30 for each summer to 40 participants. And the Edith Bush Institute at Rollins provides capacity building and support for grassroots organizations funded through the county as well. And we offer dedicated coaches through those contracts to work one-on-one with assigned agency staff on organizational capacity, contract management, their strategic planning, to be able to help them align with the guidelines that are in the agency's contracts. Additionally, another goal of the task force aimed to prevent crime by designing a physical environment that positively influences human behavior. And this is known as crime prevention through environmental design, known as CPTED practices. And one of the principles focuses on removing blight, property maintenance, and beautification efforts. Orange County has worked and they have completed 104 demolitions and 401 lot cleanings. Over 23 neighborhood beautification grants have been awarded, and 23 safe neighborhood projects focus on crime prevention and neighborhood beautification. We are continuing to invest in the Housing for All and the recommendations that stem from that task force. Since 2019, approximately 2,000 affordable housing units have been approved, and they are in various stages in the process. And I have moved one too many. And I'm sorry, I've gone too far. I think I got it. And here we are. Okay, and then we are also completing a comprehensive review of the gun laws and legislation throughout Orange County and through the state of Florida. And these are attached in your binder, and they can be found behind tab 4 in your binders. The county attorney's office is continuing to monitor the state legislation, and as legislation is implemented, it is added to our slate, our menu in real time. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Tracy Salem.
Good afternoon. The Intervention Subcommittee So the intervention subcommittee worked closely with our 9th Judicial Circuit Court and supported the Neighborhood Accountability Board. The way we did that was providing updated curriculum and training program information so that we were able to enhance the diversion program. A common theme in our intervention subcommittee was effective communication. We spoke a lot about how we would communicate with our community. One of the ways we proceeded was we hired our public information officer. Our PIO works very closely with our media partners, our communications division, as well as our community. The goal of our PIO is to ensure that our community is aware of all of the services that are being provided in Orange County by Orange County government, as well as all of the providers that we work closely with and our community. Our Community Action Division works very closely with Stop the Violence and Embrace. We've implemented a youth mentorship program and life skills training in 3 of our community centers. We work in Hal Marston Community Center, Holden Heights, and John Bridges. So a program that was introduced to us during the Safety Task Force is a Credible Messengers program. Our credible messengers are our streetwise individuals who work directly with our underestimated youth population. And the population that is targeted is our youth that have the highest propensity to recidivate and reoffend, to join gangs or have some type of gang violence, and to carry the most violent offenses in our community. We have our very first, we're the very first region to implement the Credible Messengers program and the very first county in the state of Florida to have a Credible Messenger. We hired our Credible Messenger consultant, and our Credible Messenger consultant, along with our Credible Messenger mentoring movement, trained 20 individuals, unique individuals, to become certified Credible Messengers. Our Credible Messenger consultant meets monthly with our Credible Messengers and with Orange County government. So our Citizens Commission for Children, they've really taken a unique path on how to work directly with our community, especially our grassroots organizations. The intervention subcommittee concentrated a lot on making sure that our grassroots organizations who understood and worked in our community were also able to be funded and work directly with our kids most impacted. So our CCC entered into sub-recipient awards with several of our larger organizations. They also revised the funding strategy for nonprofits, which would help some of our grassroots organizations that were not funded before the task force to assist them in receiving funding and working with Orange County. Our CCC, Citizens Commission for Children, is working currently with our Mental Health and Homeless Department, as well as our Community Action Division, and we're looking at different ways where we can provide counseling services during non-traditional hours. During the intervention subcommittee, we concentrated a lot on making sure that the families and the kids that need the services receive the services in the communities that they live in, and they receive them during non-traditional time so that it's convenient for the family. So finally, our Citizens Commission for Children, since they're the ones who are the hub for majority of these grants, they created a resource guide that is located on our Orange County website. And this is to make it easy for our partners as well as our community to be able to obtain all of the information on where services are, information on how to contact them, and any information that is needed in order for a family to be able to receive services. This is a website that remains pretty fluid because we are constantly adding new service providers and updating the services that they are providing. And that concludes for intervention. I'll pass it over to Deputy Chief Watts.
Tracy, appreciate it. Good afternoon again. I'm Anthony Watts, Deputy Chief with Orange County Corrections Department. I was the staff liaison, as I mentioned earlier, for the enforcement subcommittee. right, there we go. And as what was previously stated by Carol, the enforcement subcommittee was charged with identifying was charged with reviewing data and identifying evidence-based enforcement strategies to reduce gun violence. There were 4 recommendations that culminated from the enforcement subcommittee's work. The first was the identification of the need for community forums involving law enforcement and members of the community in order to explore different strategies to reduce gun violence and violent crime. The mayor mentioned earlier that we will be hosting 2 community forums in April. More information will be published on that in the near future to discuss those strategies. A second recommendation of the enforcement subcommittee was the working with law enforcement to acquire awareness of the different strategies that they're utilizing for community policing, their community policing strategies. Orange County Sheriff's Office, Orlando Police Department, Apopka Police Department, and many of the other law enforcement agencies within Orange County employ a variety of community policing strategies. As Chief Smith touched on earlier, there is a sincere need, and they understand the value of connecting with the community in that respect. With Orange County Sheriff's Office, many of their programs are focused on youth and trying to reduce crime with our youth within the community, catching those individuals earlier to prevent them continuing to engage in, first of all, prevent it, but for those that are involved, trying to pull them out of that life of crime. Another goal established by the enforcement subcommittee was community public safety forums. This is something that we're going to be looking to implement here in the near future, assuming it comes out of the second convene here to evaluate these strategies. Our emphasis on that forum is to ensure that we're just not holding forums to hear, but we're also wanting to use those as opportunities to leverage our partners and to also provide services, necessary services targeted to that specific community. Another goal established by the enforcement subcommittee, the last goal actually, had to do with mental health response teams and getting the word out to the community about the different strategies that law enforcement is employing to address the plight of mental illness in our community. A sobering statistic that I will share with you is that oftentimes in most communities, your jails, your local jails, are usually the repository, if you will, of the highest number of mentally ill people within the community. And I think we could all agree that that's probably not the best place for individuals who are simply suffering from mental illness. And so as you see, since implementation of the Orange County Behavioral Response Unit, they have had 1,380 or so calls for service. I'm sure that number has increased with respect to Orlando Police Department and their community response teams. They have likewise had 980 or so calls. And again, I will say that those numbers have probably increased since we last pulled that data. So with that, I just want to also note that Mayor Demings is also a champion for trying to address the plight of mental illness in our community and has spearheaded several initiatives to focus on and to target this specific issue within our community as well. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll now turn it over to Juanita Beeson.
Thank you. The prosecution subcommittee worked closely with the Ninth Judicial Circuit judiciary members as well as the U.S. Attorney's Office and had a lot of robust discussion with regard to how that particular subcommittee could impact the directives of the task force. And after much discussion and the realization that many of the areas of impact were from a legislative standpoint, the subcommittee did land on two recommendations. One in particular, the key one, was we launched the first adult civil citation diversion program in the Ninth Judicial Circuit. That diversionary program is currently in its pilot stages, and it is working with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Orlando Police Department, and the Kissimmee Police Department. Am I going that? Let's see here. Oops. Might need a little assistance here. There we are. There we are. Thank you. With those three police departments, now this program requirement is for the participants to sign an agreement. They will pay a program fee, participate in community service hours, and then a completion of an online program that directly relates to the offense that was committed. The offenses are low-level misdemeanor offenses, and the goal is to allow the law enforcement officers to get back on duty and into the community, affecting arrests and policing more serious crimes. Upon completion of the program, a participant is issued a certificate of completion and the case is dismissed. The program is in its pilot, as I said, and started in August of 2022. And to date, we have issued 83 citations and 32 completions. And while it's still in its infancy, the State Attorney's Office continues to look for community agencies who will participate in aiding the applicants in completing the program requirements, as well as engaging with the remaining law enforcement agencies. Once they have completed training with the remaining agencies, this program will move into full operation. As I mentioned, there was a second recommendation, and it is a community prosecution model titled Geographic Stewards, and we anticipate being able to have an update on that program at the next meeting. And that concludes the summary for Prosecution Subcommittee.
Thank you. Thank you. And before I go off this slide, I just want to say we had the opportunity in 2022, it was 2022, when the state attorney, Monique Worrell, launched the Adult Civil Citation Diversion Program. And Keisha Mulford is here, who was instrumental in leading that program and working to model that after the Fifth Circuit. So I wanted to recognize her and thank her for her leadership and with the launch of the first adult civil citation program that we have in our Ninth Circuit. And so I wanted to go just quickly and talk about the funding allocation. The $2 million that I mentioned to you that we received in January of 2021 as we were still doing that work, to let you know where that is being allocated for the Citizen Safety Task Force recommendations. As you can see, $1.5 million, the bulk of that funding is going into prevention and intervention initiatives that Ms. Chastain covered and Dr. Salem covered. And we have about 10 organizations that are small grassroots organizations, many of them that are getting that funding and doing that work now. We have $150,000 that's a community ambassador that Chief Watts talked about and doing those public safety forums. And then we also have about $350,000 that is targeted to support and expand initiatives and certainly new initiatives that we have within this task force. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the additional county funding that helps expand recommendations. And through the Citizens Commission for Children, you've heard a lot about that. Over the last 2 years, $5.5 million has been invested in this community to be able to expand and enhance access to youth and parenting programs, mental and behavioral health, that promote positive youth development. In addition, we have about $2.7 million that has gone into mental health, out of our mental health and homeless division, that has been targeted for training for our nonprofit organizations to increase therapeutic practices throughout the county. And then lastly, neighborhood services. You heard Ms. Chastain talk about all those community improvement projects, from lot cleanings, community cleanups, to neighborhood beautification grants and safe neighborhood projects, and that's about $1.3 million. So all of that, in addition to the $2 million, is going towards these efforts, again, with our goal of preventing and reducing violent crime and gun violence. For our next steps, we want to make sure that our cross-departmental team that I showed in the beginning continues to work on implementation of these task force recommendations in the areas of prevention, intervention, enforcement, and prosecution. We meet bi-monthly, if not more frequently than that, to give updates and find out where we are on the recommendations and certainly address any challenges that we may have. And then we also report to the Board of County Commission on a regular basis, and we'll be providing our next update in July-August period of this year. And with that, that concludes our portion of the presentation. Thank you, Mayor and Dr. Doggett and Pastor Coffin.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We've gotten through most of the meat of this meeting. We've dealt with reports. We've heard updates. We've kind of had an orientation to see exactly where we are right now. We do have a few minutes remaining in this meeting, however, that will allow for us to open up the microphones for discussions and questions. With the presentations that have been made, no doubt your minds have been stirred, and there's some things that you want to say. At least we hope that that's the case. And we're going to open the microphones right now for discussion. We don't have an unlimited amount of time. However, we do have a sufficient amount of time to still end our meeting in a timely fashion and still have discussion. So is there anyone who has a question or a comment that they'd like to make right now? Perhaps some of the presentations that have been made raise questions in your mind. This will be the opportunity to hear from the task force at this time. Ricky Lee.
Hello. Thank you again so much for the update reports from all the staff, and thank you everyone for all the great work that you do in our community. I had a question. What's the partnership or relationship with OCPS, like with all the work that you do with the Children's Commission and things? Because, you know, OCPS probably touches children's lives like the most in our county right, every day. So just wondering what that's like and how that's going. Then I have a follow-up question.
Great question. Through, I'll go up to the mic. Okay. Let's see. Through the, thank you. Through the Citizens Commission for Children, Orange County Public Schools, they sit on the Citizens Commission for Children's Advisory Board. They help guide the work of the Citizens Commission for Children by serving on the advisory board. We also have some contracts through Orange County Public Schools. We fund many of their nursing staff, as well as some social workers, as well as some tutors, some mentors through Orange County Public School System. So we work really collaboratively with the school system.
Thank you. And a follow-up question, I guess, for the panel. What are some ways that we're outreaching to the greater community to help you in your task and in the recommendations? There's a lot of recommendations here, and not one person can do it all. How can people in the greater community get involved. Who might not have their whole, who might not have a nonprofit, or just have a couple hours to help out and do their part.
So our staff, they're kind of looking around, so I'm going to jump in, and then they can chime in as we move forward. I alluded to the fact that we are doing a community survey, that we are inviting all of our residents or those who have an interest in this to complete that survey, and it will give us some information by which to bring before this body and respond to and react to appropriately. But then we also, to make certain that our community knows what we have available, our communications team in Orange County on a daily basis pushes out information via social media, through the mainstream media, and through all of our various websites, departments, etc., information about the different programs that we have to engage with us throughout this process, but also for those existing programs, if there are questions or concerns, if you have an interest, if you're a community-based organization, a non-governmental organization, etc., we have different windows of opportunity where we open up the opportunity for proposals to be submitted to receive funding to support these efforts. In fact, we have the window open right now, and so there are many community-based organizations who are aware of that. We have worked in partnership with Rollins College and the Edith Bush Institute to work with nonprofit organizations to train them in how administratively they can increase capacity to serve the community. And that is another funding program that we have in place, because one of the things we have learned since instituting the recommendations previously, there were community-based organizations that quite frankly were not in a position to increase capacity well. The administrative side of what we are doing, they were deficient, and so we wanted to remove those deficiencies so that they could. After all, the dollars that we are advancing, it's not free money. We want to see results produced by all of those organizations who engage with us. One of the things that we said, in order to be eligible for participation on this task force, you could not be one of those current existing organizations that is receiving funding, or a specific entity that hopes to receive funding ultimately by or through this process, because we thought that you may have an ulterior motive and we would not get your purest recommendations. We want objective recommendations to come out of this process going forward. So we're fortunate in Orange County to also have Orange TV. We're one of the few counties that actually has its own television station. So part of the reason why you see the cameras here today, this is being streamed live. Another one of those opportunities to engage, to communicate to our community and make them aware. And then I have to thank our local media for being here today, because they also assist us in the process. Thank you all. For those of you who have done documentaries about this issue centered around violent crime in our community and what is being done, I've seen some of the stories and the journalism that has been done through local WFTV and as well as WESH, and perhaps others have carried stories as well. We encourage them to continue to do that, to shine a spotlight on what we are doing with this process. So it's a long way to answer your question, but I wanted you to understand a lot is going into making certain that our community is aware of what we're doing.
Ben, I just wanted to add to Ricky and I had a conversation about this. We have, which you saw in the intervention slide, the resource where you can go on, and I think we fund about 95 different agencies through the Citizens Commission for Children. And as much as we know they need money, they need people. They need volunteers. So I would encourage anyone, if you see one of those organizations that you have an interest in, to reach out to them. We can certainly, through county staff, help make that connection, because they always need more people that can volunteer their time and their expertise and just be able to give back whenever you can.
And in addition to that, through our Community Action Center, we are looking for volunteers to be able to help us at those centers too. So you can contact Orange County's Community Action and request to be a volunteer, as well as through our Neighborhood Center for Families.
Dr. Jones, do I see your hand?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. As a pediatrician, looking at the prevention goals and prevention being a key component of pediatrics, I would highly recommend that we lower that age, target age, well below 13. These kids are at risk if they're in certain environments in their home from birth, but certainly well before pre-adolescent, 10 years of age, we should be getting to those children, especially, as you mentioned, at the school level. They're already showing kind of their trajectory, and reaching them and mentoring them and supporting their families is key. The second question I had, well, the first question I had was at the level of the juvenile justice system and even our adults in jail and prison, I haven't heard, or maybe I just haven't had time to mention, programs, mental health, addressing mental health issues, addressing trauma, helping these individuals, as the young man mentioned from public comment. What are we doing for these young people? The case we heard, he'd gone in and out 45 days into the system and still came out and repeated. So what are we doing to target and teach and support and steer these individuals from their criminal activity? Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jones, excellent question. Today's meeting really has been all about a review of the sunshine laws and just the basic framework. But within your subcommittee meetings, once those meetings begin, you will get detailed presentations that will answer the types of questions that you're referencing. And at that time, if there are recommendations, after you hear some of the clinical kind of presentations, as well as some of the data, and there's a recommendation that comes forward from your subcommittee to the general body about improving the delivery of services that we have in place, that will be the appropriate time to bring it all up. So we knew we couldn't explain all of that in the time allotted today. So the work of the subcommittees is going to be very critical to the process going forward.
Okay, is this working? Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Awesome. First of all, thank you all so much for the work you put behind these objectives that we put forth in the last subcommittee. I'm really, really excited to see all the progress that we've been able to make as a community thanks to your leadership, those of you on staff specifically. I do have a couple of follow-up questions that I'm hoping we can kind of work together to answer. One was, I do remember in the prevention subcommittee we talked a little bit about supporting families economically, but I didn't see any direct information in the work that you all have done yet, and I'd love to hear more about what's been done to improve that.
So while the focus of the task force was specifically trying to target those nonprofit organizations that were focused on reducing and preventing and intervening in violent crime, the county does have several, through the Community and Family Services Department, programs and services that support families that are going through tough economic times, mostly through our Citizen Resource and Outreach. We have the Rental Assistance Program. Through Community Action, we have various programs that help with, for instance, light bill assistance, help with training skills, getting back on your feet economically. There are a number of programs that we have in place, also through nonprofit providers who help with job readiness and provide assistance programs through their nonprofits. So there are other programs, but again, as Mayor said, when we get into the subcommittees, we can get into those more deeply, and we can talk about how we make that connection, because there is at least some connection between being in need and the possibility of being vulnerable to criminal activity. So we'd want to address that directly.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I do have a couple of other questions. One specifically pertaining to the Adult Civil Citation Diversion Program. So I know it's in pilot mode, you said, and I was wondering what kind of metrics are being tracked now to understand how successful the program is in its pilot phase.
So we are tracking.
Oh, thanks.
We are tracking. No. You can hear me? Okay. So we are tracking every single person who comes through. So far, we only have data from the sheriff's office, so it's easy to track. Like, Keisha Mulford, this is the offense, this is what happened. We reach out to and now have relationships with the different organizations that these individuals go through for community service. So they will let us know if there are people that would benefit from, a class or an extended stay in community service, if you will. Mm-hmm. But we basically have an in-house system where I have a great assistant over here who has an Excel spreadsheet that on any given day she can tell you when someone started the program, when they finished the program, and that's how we track it. We have not had any repeat offenders, thankfully.
Yay.
Knock on wood, is this wood? So we haven't had anyone come back through the program, fortunately. So we have seen success so far,
it's 100%
but it's still
success,
pretty.
Right?
So far, it's still pretty early, but we've had success with what we've had so far.
Awesome, thanks. I only have two more questions, promise. My other question is, I'm wondering if there's for the community crime survey, if there's a non-written response ability on it for citizens who have literacy issues or may not be comfortable with a written format of a survey.
That's hi, Adam. That's a good question that I just need to look into. I know when we launched this last in 2021, when we put the community crime survey out, it was an electronic format, and then we did have a handwritten copy. I think you probably remember that. We passed a lot of those out at our community forum that we did. We make sure that it is in English, Spanish, and Creole. And we did have a lot of staff at those. And again, when we do these community forums, as the mayor mentioned in April, we have staff there that if someone does need any assistance filling out that, we just want to make sure we get their information. It's valuable to have that. So we'll make every effort.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, last question. I do remember, too, we were talking a lot about how there are a dozen municipalities in Orange County, aside from Orange County and Orlando, and they were not really well represented. And I'm curious about any efforts that have been made to kind of bring all those other municipalities into this conversation.
There are other municipalities participating. You have the city of Apopka. Deputy Chief Miller is here today representing that city. But what I will tell you is most of these services that we are funding through these initiatives apply countywide, inclusive of the cities where the services are being provided within those various jurisdictions. And so in many regards, the agencies that are contracting with us. They're geographically located, and they serve a certain radius around where they're located. The goal was to ensure that we were delivering services right in the community with credible messengers from those respective areas, people who live in those communities, who have the ability to spend significant time with the youth in the different programs that kind of focus in the prevention and the intervention areas. If that makes sense to you. So we do with the various municipalities. They are invited to participate in the meetings. We want to see a greater participation from them, but the collective of the membership that you have here is a very diverse group of individuals. We've been intentional about ensuring that they represent the broad array of the community that we serve, and so they come from the entire community. This is the reason why we have this task force, is all of you represent those various communities as well.
Mayor, I would also like to respond to Adam. Throughout the process, when we were doing the enforcement subcommittee, we did have other members of the law enforcement community, other police chiefs that participated, that attended the meetings to provide their input. And our efforts not only centered or stopped with the law enforcement officers who are enforcing the laws on the streets, but we were also intentional about reaching out to probation, the Department of Juvenile Justice, and other entities to get a full-body perspective of how we could incisively address these issues in our community.
Thank you.
My name is Pastor Sabrina, and I'm over in the Apopka area. I know we have the John Bridges Center where the Boys and Girls Club is over there, but we have a lot of kids in our community that just their parent don't send them, and I does a lot of things with our community kids over there, and I see them. They be in the street, they hang where the gang members hang at. And I try to open up my nonprofit organization, which is my church, where they can come and feel safe, eat a snack, after school. And I don't be funny. I don't ask for anything, because a lot of things I does out of my pocket. And back when Henrietta Tice had the village house, I had a village house. And the kids can come after school, they do their homework. They eat a healthy snack, and they have a place to hang out. I don't see that no more over there. And a lot of our kids be out on the streets at night. And me, as a retired educator, I taught a lot of those kids over there, and they don't have anything to do, and their parents won't send them to Boys and Girls Club. That's where I sent my daughter, at the Boys and Girls Club. And I don't see that over there anymore. I see them, they wandering the street, they getting into things that they don't have no business doing. And I try to do whatever I can out of my pocket without funding to help these kids, to try to intervene, to teach them the right way and keep them on the right path. I go out and I go in their homes, I pray with them, I do what I can do with them, to help them. The streets is not where they're supposed to be. And we have a lot of young mothers that I mentor and I talk to that have babies. And I open up the doors of my church where they can come and feel safe. As of now, I deal with parents that now, 2 of them were ready to commit suicide. So, that they don't have nothing for their kids. They can't afford to send their children to a Boys and Girls Club. So that's a concern that I have, but I don't have the funding to help, to open up my doors all the time to that. And they calls me. I have a lot of people come to my house. I have a lot of children like to come and be around me, and the parents. So I don't have that kind of funding, where I can purchased, and we had an awesome Christmas giveaway at my ministry for the kids that's less fortunate. So that's a concern I have.
So I do want to make you aware, just really quickly, that that's one of the initiatives or recommendations that came out of the previous task force, was that we needed more at the community centers to invite youth to come and be there. Whether it is we always want to do something to enhance and enrich them, but even if it is just for a safe space. And so that's one of the funded programs that came out of the previous task force, was through our Community Action Division that is providing resources in the centers. And John Bridges is one of those centers. So if we can connect afterwards, I can tell you, because we're currently recruiting youth to come. So if you know the youth, we need to talk so we can make sure that we get them there. Thank you.
I'm hands-on out there in the street.
This brings us to the end of our open discussion for this meeting. We anticipate that there will be real passionate discussions happening in the subcommittees and in additional meetings of the task force at large. We do thank you so much for opening up and sharing questions and comments. We anticipate the temperature will begin to rise a little bit as we get into the subcommittees to get to the brass tacks, get right down into the ditch, so to speak, and get our fingernails dirty. The real work still does lie ahead. Pastor Coffin.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here. And I personally found it quite inspiring, having served on the initial task force, to see the things that had been recommended and to see how they were being implemented. And I would just like to say to the gentleman who spoke about the need for the perspective of those who have had difficulties in life and have been incarcerated and who have perspectives that it would be good for us to hear. I would like to mention that we had such people on the task force last time, and when you saw the reports about the credible messengers, that to a great degree was promoted and instituted because of someone who could give that kind of perspective. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. And as you were speaking, I'm thinking, yes, that's right. And to the degree that we've done it, we've seen improvement from it. So this is just the launching of this task force, this review task force. And there is much more to come. And Carol Burkett will be sending out the subcommittee assignments, and so she has your contact information, and you will be assigned to a subcommittee. And she will also tell you the time and date and place where these various subcommittees will be held. And those of any of you who would like to find out more information about scheduling and so on, this will be at the ocfl.net/citizen-safety website, and so you can log on there and find out for sure what's going on. The next full task force will be on April 18 from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It will be at the Barnett Park Recreation Center at 4801 West Colonial Drive. And so you'll find the schedule in your binders for the remainder of the full task force meetings. And also that there will be reminders sent to you from Carol Burkett's office. And so I'd like to turn it back to Mayor Demings, and he will make closing remarks.
All right. This is just the beginning of a fairly lengthy process. And I kind of want to remind you about what you heard today. You heard that while overall crime or violent crime appears to be on the decline, you may agree with me that it's still too high. I believe that we have the opportunity to reduce the prevalence of violent crime So understand that doing nothing is not an option. We're asking all of our residents, including you, to trust the process. Through this collaboration, we can reduce the prevalence of violent crime through the integration of our 4 pillars: prevention, intervention, enforcement, and prosecution. The data indicates that we have, sadly, continued to experience tragedy within our community. But there has been marginal success in reducing the numbers of violent incidents. But for those families who have been directly impacted because one of their loved ones fell victim to violent crime, for them it is one too many. We realize that every one of the numbers that have been mentioned today represents a person, a human being, a life. Every one of those numbers that you looked at. So we are asking each of you to help us help you. When the work of this task force is completed for this reconstitution of the task force, the work that you will do, the recommendations that you will make, will live on. Because this work, pastors, is work that will continue, likely forever. So thank you all for your willingness to join us, to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. I look forward to seeing and hearing from you more. Thank you for your attendance today. This concludes our program.